Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, and I would say that this brewery are known mainly for their New England hazy IPAs. And if you're into this style, then this is a brewery that I highly recommend that you check out. In recent times, they've also been releasing a few other styles as well, which have turned out to be pretty good. So I do hope that they continue on in that light then. But I always keep an eye out for their new releases, and the one that we're going to have a look at today is their latest release. So curious to see how it turns out. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to a little place called Nora, which is just a little bit to the north of Örebro, out to the west of Stockholm, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Apex Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called the Maelstrom Double IPA. It comes in at 8% ABV, and as you've probably gathered by now, this one is another New England hazy imperial double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this beer was released as part of the Lokal Osmoskalygd assortment for September of 2021 through Systembolaget here in Sweden. And I think it was only one beer they released this month actually. So yeah, I've heard good things about this. It's got a little bit of a more unusual hop bill to it. So let's see how we get on with this one. But I'm sure, knowing Apex, this will be a pretty solid beer. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Apex Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Apex Brewing then. So Apex Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Nora, which is to the north of Örebro, out to the west of Stockholm, and the company was founded back in 2017 by Daniel Gatchitz and Niklas Lundgren. So these guys are both musicians, with Niklas having played in the band 59 Times the Pain, whereas Daniel played in Voice of a Generation. And Daniel and Niklas are responsible for the brewing operations, but there are a few others involved in the company as well. This is Leif Carlson, Ola Eriksson and Roger Hjelm. But they started off with a 500 litre brew kit with 6 fermentation tanks, and they were selling their beers in the local area before going into Systembolaget. And the very first beer they released, I believe, was simply called Single Hop, and it was a Citra New England IPA, if memory serves me correctly. But in 2018, these guys brewed around 35,000 litres of beer over the course of the year, with about 25 different varieties, pretty much all of them New England hazy IPAs, and they brewed about 120,000 litres over the course of 2019. Over the following years, they've continued to build up their sales and things like this. And yeah, they've been doing very well for themselves. In the summer of 2021 though, they announced that they were going to move to a new premises in the Betorp area of Örebro, and this will happen sometime this autumn. And this brewery, the move will see them upgrade their 500 litre brew kit to a 2,000 litre brew kit, and they're going to add several new tanks into that facility as well. But yeah, as of September 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 90 different kinds of beer, and as I've told you in previous Apex reviews, they tend to release 1 or 2 beers through the Tillfälligt assortment, or the Lokal Osmoskalygd assortment through Systembolaget every month, and you can get their new beers pretty fresh through Glassbanken.se as well, but it's a little bit more expensive to do that actually. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Apex Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all those different beers that they've done. But yeah, that's it for your history section. Let's get on and have a look at the beer itself. So as you can see, this one has the typical Apex Brewing Company artwork on it. Let me just put the light down a notch because I think it's just a little bit too intense for the close-up. There we go. But yeah, there you can see the Apex Brewing Company artwork there, as you always get. The gorilla on it this time, which is pretty cool, and it's saying something here. I breathe its eternity to absorb the sky where the shadows of death may lie. Interesting. But yeah, as you always get, music, people and beer, and there you can see the gorilla on it. But 440ml can, once again. I believe this cost me 55 Swedish kronor, so that's about £5 sterling, €5.50, and I guess somewhere in the region of like $6.50 American. But yeah, as I say, should be quite nice. And this one is still produced in Nora, so I know my notes are up to date for the moment then, but we need to see about updating those, I guess, later in the autumn. But yeah, an 8% New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, double imperial IPA. And the profile for this one, which I took from Untappd, it says this one is hopped with Galaxy, Topaz and Amarillo. So Galaxy we know quite well, 14% alpha acid, Australian hop, usually big pungent passion fruit, some pineapple, and sometimes some juicy mango in it as well. Topaz is another Australian one. You don't come across all that often, but that's another quite high alpha acid, 14 to 15% alpha, and it usually gives you a sort of lychee type flavour, if memory serves me correctly. And Amarillo, we know is an American hop, about 12% alpha acid, lovely big juicy and zesty oranges. The malt base in this one is Maris Otter Extra Pale Malt, flaked wheat and also chip malt, which is quite interesting, a variety of wheat if memory serves me correctly. And then it uses the typical WLP 66 London fog yeast, which these guys often use. But yeah, let's get this guy out then and we'll get on with the tasting. It's been a very long time since I've had Topaz in a beer, and it's always quite interesting with that actually, when you think about how you know, some hops go in and out of fashion and they just appear. So we're starting to see a lot more Galaxy, having not seen it for a while. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, this beer certainly looks very, very nice, I have to say. Let me just look at the viewfinder. I'm used to looking at my phone for the viewfinder, but now I'm filming on my phone, which is good. So yeah, this looks pretty nice, as we say. So anyway, appearance time. As you can see and as you would expect, this one is poured a lovely, I would say, very, very bright, rich mango juice yellow colour. Before the head disappears, I would say that it's got about a solid half finger of a frothy, perfect white head. That is starting to fade away to just be a very thin foamy layer, but it's got a nice kind of thicker ring around the edge of the glass there. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there. But overall, it does look pretty nice, and nothing really unsurprising about the appearance of this beer when you consider what style it is. Now, the colour of this one, as we say, very nice, rich, sort of bright yellow mango juice colour. As I always say, I love comparing the different these beers, the colour of these beers to different types of fruit juices, because that's really just what their appearance reminds me of. But the colour of your beer depends on, one, the type of malts that you're going to use, two, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role in that. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. This beer doesn't really have any brown sugary leaning malts in it, so that's why you get this lovely bright yellow colour. The ones that do have a little bit of a more brown sugary type malt in it will be the ones that tend to be a bit more kind of ambery and things like that. But the level of haze in this beer is is, you know, kind of what you would, it is what you would expect for an 8%er, but it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of beers we've had from Apex, if memory serves me correctly. But theirs don't tend to be the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs, generally speaking. But the level of haze, remember, is to do with your wheat content, your oak content, and your yeast is also going to play a role in that too. But it certainly looks like a very, very nice beer. This one, I have to say, and just looking at just the little whiff I had of the aroma there, I think it's going to be pretty damn good. So yeah, that's everything we need to say about the appearance. Let's have a look at the aroma and just see how we go with this one then. Very curious about this. That smells really nice. Yeah, it's been a long, you know, it's one of these things. I always look forward to my Localis, not my Localis Moscalis, yeah, it is my Localis Moscalis, I'm confusing myself. I always look forward to getting these beers every month, you know, the new Apex, the new Duck Pond, all of these kind of things. I look forward to these reviews every month, because you go back to a brewery that you know, you actually know quite well, but you always, it's still always just a little bit nostalgic, and it's still something new, so it's exciting. But I love these Apex beers, and it feels, the thing is, when you've not had one for a month, it feels like long enough that you can get excited about it again. this is why I love trying different stuff all the time. But yeah, with this one, I think this is really, this is good. It just hits the chords on the aroma, should we say. So yeah, first impression is that it's got a little bit of that it's got a little bit of that sort of farmhousey, crackery sort of thing that you would expect of Apex. It's got a lovely bright green component to it and some nice just juicy, smooth, juicy, fruity characters. But let's break the aroma down and go into it a little bit more kind of in depth as we always do. So yeah. So for me, malt base then. What I'll say about this one is it's quite interesting because this one, yeah, I was going to say it has the flaked wheat and the chip malt in it, so the wheat is a little bit more pungent. That's the first thing that I get out of this. So it has that really nice bit of just wheaty pungency, bitiness at the back of the nose. So that's the first thing that jumps out of the malt base there. But at the same time, you can smell that the backbone of this beer is a sort of, not McVitie's digestive, a little bit more of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. That is the backbone of this beer. You get that nice Jacob's cream crackery note. On top of that though, you can smell a little bit of a kind of soft white bread, but it smells quite fresh and quite airy in a sense. So yeah, it does. It smells really kind of fresh and really airy, actually, which I think is very, very nice. I really can appreciate that about this beer for sure. So yeah, crackers underneath, a bit of a soft white bread, like I say, and then you can smell the wheat just kind of thickening it out a little bit. And as I said, at the back of the nose, you can really smell the sort of bitiness of the wheat, if that makes sense. So yeah, the aroma coming out of this one is very, very good actually. I really like how this goes together in that sense. So on the how would we say, on the kind of sweeter side of the malt base, it's interesting because there is just I still get a wee bit of that kind of Werther's Original type thing out of it, and I don't know, it must just be the booziness that you get out of the beer that gives you that. And that's an interesting point to make because this is Maris Otter Extra Pale, flaked wheat and chip. This is one of the simpler malt bases that you'll find from Apex Brewing actually. So that's definitely a notable point with this beer. So I still get a wee bit of that Werther's Original type thing out of it, which I like. I do like that. I like having a little touch of sweetness in the beer. But yeah, this one actually smells a little bit kind of crisper and smoother, if you like, and a bit more bitey compared to some of the other Apex ones that we had before. You do get a little bit of that farmhousey yeasty kind of thing out of this one too, which I find quite interesting. So I really like how all of this goes together in that beer. The malty and yeasty side of things in this beer gets a thumbs up from me. So yeah, pretty awesome stuff from that perspective. I don't think there's too much else we really need to say about the malty side of this beer, to be honest. So let's go on to the hoppy side, green component. Yeah, green component is pretty straight shooting in this, to be honest. There is a wee touch of earthiness in there, but I would say that this one has big floral notes to it, and it's quite zesty on the grassy side of things too. And I remember Topaz is quite a zesty grassy hop actually, but you've also got Amarillo in here, which can give you a big bit of zest from the oranges. So there's a lovely hoppy element to this one. So lovely big kind of bright floral aromaticity. I wouldn't describe it as being a more darker and wetter floral aromaticity, if you like, but I get a lot of grassiness out of this one, and there's a wee bit of kind of wetness and things to it as well actually. So I really like how this beer goes about its business. Yeah, this big zesty character that comes out of this on the grassy side of things does make it quite appealing. I've been enjoying quite a few of the zesty IPAs recently, so yeah, this works. Thumbs up to them once again for that. So on the on that side of things, there is a nice I don't think we really have anything else to say about the green component, to be honest with you, but the fruity side of things is quite interesting in this beer, I would say. So for me, you can certainly smell a wee bit of that more pardon me, pungent passion fruit, and that's the Galaxy that's going to give you that. Absolutely, that is Galaxy that's going to give you that deeper passion fruity note. But there's a lovely kind of juicy mango character to this one, which is great. So lovely big kind of juicy mangoes there. But there's also some you get one or two little other things in there. I mean, you do get a wee bit. It's actually quite a ripe mango that you get out of this. The mango almost has that very slight kind of green guava like component to it. It's just, it comes across as very, very ripe, but little, there's a little bit of an apricot note underneath for sure. Then you get there is quite a lot of zestiness coming out of this one, which is interesting to say. So you can smell the big oily orange from the Amarillo. I've always found that Amarillo gives you that big oily but still quite zesty orange, but you can get a wee bit of the more oily lychee underneath, but it's quite hard to detect that just because of how pungent the orange is. So that's really interesting. The way that this beer goes together is nice. This is quite different, having Galaxy, Topaz and Amarillo. It's an unusual hop combination, so that makes this beer pretty damn quirky, I have to say. So yeah, let's get the rest of it in the glass and we'll have a taste of it then. As I always say, take a wee bit of time just to mull over the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But you can see it has got slightly hazier, I think, since we just put the last little bit of it in. Yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, let's have a look at this one then and see how we get on. So this one is the Maelstrom, New England Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Apex Brewing Company in Nora here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, and cheers. Ooh. First impression is just really nice and juicy. Big thumbs up to Apex for this one. This just kind of hits the spot actually. I like what this beer's doing. Yeah. That's pretty damn good, I have to say. Not surprised though, Apex tend to know what they're doing. Let's just break this down and see how we go. I mean, it doesn't taste so different from what they've done before, but that's the thing, is you can usually guarantee 99% of the time you'll get a good New England IPA from these guys, and once again they've delivered, so thumbs up to them. I always find, like I've said in other reviews, when you have the same kind of beer from a brewery quite often, it's quite hard to pick a favourite, but it's to compare them actually, because you're having so many of the same beer, and with the local releases here in Sweden it's a bit difficult because there's a month between each of these reviews roughly, a little bit longer in this case, but yeah, this is really damn solid, so big thumbs up to them once again. Let's break the flavour of this down a little bit and describe it. So, the backbone of this beer, is just lovely, and it's that sort of woody, crackery kind of thing. As I say, you've got that Jacob's cream cracker right across the middle in the back third of your palate, and just a little bit of a kind of woody sort of thing sitting on top of it. It's really nice. It's got a little bit of a kind of smoothness, but also a wee bit of a kind of dryness to it, which is kind of interesting. So that's on the middle third and the back third of your palate. Of course, it's a bit smoother towards the front of that middle third of your palate, and a wee bit more kind of grainy towards the back end of it. So yeah. Yeah, that is pretty damn nice, I have to say. So thumbs up to Apex Brewing once again on that malty side of things. It's kind of interesting this, because it is, like I said, one of the simpler malt bases they're going to do, but it works. On top of that, if we talk about the middle third of your palate just now though, on top of that you get a soft and quite crisp though, white bready layer, and you can feel a little bit of the wheat just on top of that, kind of thickening out. But like I say, the whole vibe of this malt base is pretty relaxed actually. It's just kind of nice and quite crisp. So if we keep focusing on that middle third of your palate, you can feel that right in the middle of your tongue, there's that nice kind of circle there, and it feels really smooth, that you can feel the wheat just kind of smoothing out there, and it almost gives you a wee touch of sweetness, which is kind of interesting. But sitting on top of that, you get a little bit of that slight Werther's Original butterscotch, butter candy type thing coming out of the beer, and I, again, really like that. I really like a little touch of sweetness in these beers, and when it's an 8%er as well, a New England Double IPA, that is to be expected, to be honest. So, yeah, lovely. I really lovely in the malt base. I think this gets a bit sweeter the more that you drink of it as well. The sweetness really evolves out of this one in the malt base a bit more, but at the same time, the further into the aftertaste you go, you get a little bit more crispness and shit out of the a little bit more crispness and sharpness. I meant to say, mincing my words, must be going to my head already. You get a bit more kind of crispness and things out of it too. So smoothness, sweetness, and a bit of crispness coming out of this one. So yeah, I do like that. But yeah, let's focus on the back third of your palate. I don't think we really need to say any more about the middle third of your tongue. So border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a kind of bready build up. And there again, there's a little bit of a more kind of bread crusty sort of thing. Then the backbone of the back third of your palate is that sort of crackery, grainy sort of thing. On top of that, there's a wee bit more of a kind of there's a wee bit of a more, you get a wee bit of that more, you can feel the wheat sort of thickening up a little bit. There's not too much of the white bread. You can feel that the wheat there, actually, and I was getting a bit of gas off it, the wheat actually kind of thickens up a wee bit more, and it gets more and more bitey, as we said earlier. And then on top of that, you can feel the more airy, yeasty character. So the flavour, as I always say on the back third of your palate, the flavour is taller, but as you come further forward, it just condenses down. Then as you go into that middle third of your palate, it just squashes together a wee bit more, which I really like. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is pretty nice actually. So yeah. Yeah, on the on the malty side of things, I think this is really nice actually. I think it the malty and yeasty side of things just goes together really well, and it just kind of goes to show you that having a simple malt base can be really nice. I mean, this is three different types of malt: the chit, the flaked wheat, and the Maris Otter Extra Pale, but it certainly works. It really does work well, so thumbs up to them for that. But let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer. So back corners of the palate, I definitely get a wee bit of earthiness out of this one. It's interesting. Remember, your New England IPAs rely on late addition hops and dry hopping rather than being so reliant on early addition hops, which give you all the bitterness. Late addition hops and dry hopping give you the flavour and aroma, of course. But yeah, as you move further forward, you've got a nice big, deep floral aromaticity coming out of this one. It has got a bit of depth to it, but then it gets a wee bit spicier, I think, as you reach the front corners of the palate, and that's actually in quite a bit of contrast with the aroma. It was actually a very bright floral aromatist that you were getting off it, but you certainly get a lovely kind of zesty, grassy character around the front curve of your palate, and I would say that it's most likely the Amarillo and the Topaz that are most likely responsible for that. I don't think Galaxy's too zesty on the grassy side of things, but yeah, quite a wee bit of that coming out in this one, I have to say. So I like that. I do like how that goes together. On the, I think the green component that's probably the thing that differs the most from the aroma. I think that's fair to say. But let's focus on the fruity part of the beer then, and the base of the front third of your palate. So border region between front third and middle third, again, wee bit of a bready build-up, a little bit of a bread crust, base of a kind of soft white bready note underneath that. And yeah, soft kind of white ready note in there, smooth. Then on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So I like that. I do like how that goes together for sure. Yeah, it works. Again, it works really, really well. But Yeah, it's awesome. It's the fruity side of this one. I'm trying to think, you know, it's quite oily, but at the same time, it's really soft and juicy in some ways. So again, this has got a good balance to it, in my opinion. So if we go to the back of that front third of your palate, then you do get that wee bit of a more pungent passion fruit for sure. So yeah, nice little bit of pungent passion fruit. There's a more kind of the passion fruit sort of mellows out as you come further forward, but you have got a really nice oily and juicier mango note in there as well. You know, there are a few kind of undertones of apricot and things, but I think, you know, in quite a lot of beers these days that have these tropical hops, you do get the undertones of apricot. But as you go into the front third of your palate, the front half of that front third of your palate, sorry, you can notice that the fruits get distinctively more oily. So there's a lovely big oily character in there, and you can feel it's just big and oily and orangey, and that's the Amarillo that's giving you that. That is the Amarillo all the way. But just as you reach the kind of very front edge of the palate there, you do get that more oily lychee kind of note out of this one. Lychee is quite an interesting one for me because it's almost, I almost find it a little bit like gooseberry, but just a little bit redder in its flavour. You know, I need to actually go and get some lychees from the supermarket and just fully familiarise myself with the flavour, but I always find it's just a little bit oily but kind of red at the same time. But yeah, I think on top of that, it does work. It works very nicely. So yeah, where do we go? Where do we go from here? I think on top of that orange as well, I think there is a wee bit of a pineapple note, which is the Galaxy that's most likely to give you that. So yeah, it's a lovely kind of it's yeah the passion not the passion fruit, the pineapple. I'm mixing my words in this video terribly. The pineapple is lovely and soft, and it's you know, it's lovely and soft, and at the same time it gets a little bit more oily, but it just sits on top of that big zesty orange from the Amarillo, and the Amarillo the Amarillo orange gets zestier and zestier the further that you go into the aftertaste, which is really, really interesting. So yeah, this beer really gets a bit more zesty the further you go into it, but it's very smooth at the same time. So I can really appreciate how this beer goes about its business. So on that note, it gets a big thumbs up from me. The fruity side of this beer is very nice. But I don't think we need to say any more about the kind of flavour of this one, actually. And I've just noticed on the back of the can here, it says oat malt. But yeah, in the little profile that I took from Untappd, it doesn't say anything about oat malt. So I wonder if that's complete. But I don't think there's oat malt in this. That must just be a standard design thing that they put on it. But yeah, according to Untappd, it didn't have any oats in it. So yeah, and it was definitely the right beer that I looked up. But yeah, let's round off the review with the mouthfeel then. So mouthfeel wise, I'd say, you know, mid-bodied beer, maybe pushing towards the top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation's very smooth. Overall, I find this one of the slightly lighter and crisper double IPAs that I've had from Apex. But then again, a lot of their beers tend to be pretty drinkable, to be honest with you. They tend to be a bit lighter and drinkable, mouthfeel wise. But yeah, as I say, a lovely hoppy bitterness, to it, but it's quite low. I think this is, you know, I think this might be about 35, 40 IBUs. It feels a little bit more than a standard 30, but yeah, I'm tempted to say, you know, 35, 40 IBUs. I think that's kind of roughly where we're sitting with this one. But yeah, on the as I say, on the malty side of things, it's quite smooth and a little bit crisp. And then on the fruity side of things, it's got a good balance, a bit juicier and tropical, and a little bit more sort of oily, and a little bit more kind of oily and zesty as well. So yeah, this is really quite nice. Yeah, I think I like this one. And as I say, this one, I think because it's been a little bit longer since I've had an Apex brewing beer, this one has just kind of stuck in the mind a little bit more. It's just kind of had a little bit more impact than some of the other ones might have had. But yeah, this is another very solid beer from Apex, but that is what we've come to expect. And I think we can round off this review there. So well done to Apex for another really solid beer. And if you like this style, you will enjoy the stuff that Apex are putting out there. But let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Apex Brewing Company as well. We will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future, and I will catch you guys in the next review then. The Maelstrom Double IPA, New England Double IPA, 8% ABV from Apex Brewing Company in Nora near Örebro in Sweden. Slange, skål, and cheers.